up, ladies and gents, and welcome back to Forza Horizon 5. We're here with the Auld Syne Seasonal Championship. It's a dirt racing championship, and you have to use a car from the 2010s in the A class. I am using the WRX STI, since it's dirt racing, and that's a pretty good dirt racing car. Not the fastest, but it's very easy to drive, pretty good to handle, and probably a car I would recommend for any sort of beginner driver looking for a car that is good to handle. And what you want to do in the first race is make use of a start. Now, not the literal start right here, because the AI is just too good at that. But the starting, I'd say 10% or so, or 15%. Because the AI is absolutely horrible in these fast corners. And you want to make sure you get ahead of them. Yeah, I broke my skill streak, but that's not very important. What is important is that we get ahead here, because now the technical bit starts. And now we have to focus. I have rewind on, because obviously the AI gets this insane grip boost on dirt racing because it can't really drift. So they gave it that grip boost, but that also means that the AI can get through corners full throttle that you can't, and it makes dirt racing against the AI a pain in the, well, you know what. And you know, highly skilled, it's manageable, but it's still quite a pain to drive against the AI in dirt racing. So since I am commentating and I cannot 100% focus on getting a clean race, which is something I do actually struggle with a little bit, focusing on the race and talking, I have rewind on in case we completely mess up. You can obviously turn it on as well, I won't judge you. But yeah, that's a feature I tend to have on when recording. I rarely need it, but sometimes it happens, and you know, when you do, it's good to have it. And yeah, in this more technical section, it would be pretty tough to get ahead of the AI, because here it drives pretty well. But at the start with these fast corners, the AI isn't very good at these fast corners that you can go through full throttle. And you can also see it with the racing line. It often tells you to slow down in those corners, but you will find out that you can actually go full throttle through them, and that's where the AI sucks at. Like these corners where the racing line tells you, hey, slow down a lot, and you can just go full throttle either by cutting the corner a little bit, or well, just because it's actually not necessary to really slow down. You can just floor it and go through. And you will find the AI struggles there, and that's where you need to take them, because in these technical bits here, you will be pretty lost. I mean, you can get past them, especially if you throw your car around a bit. And you maybe go for a daring overtake move, throw your car into their car, do a little bit of ramming, and then using them as a wall. But those are not really tactics you want to have to resort to. I mean, it's only the AI, so I won't judge anyone for doing that. I will do it myself if I need to. Because again, it's only the AI, and the AI won't really care if you're driving a little bit dirty, but still, you really don't want to have to rely on that. Because it obviously also slows you down, so if you have several cars ahead of you, that's not really a guarantee you get anywhere, so yeah, that was race number 1. It's really just get ahead early, and then it's fine when you need to just make sure you drive a fairly clean race. We'll go to race number 2. Where is race number 2? Well, we could do this one, but I want to do this one first. I should have a drink, but I don't want to stop the recording now. That would just mean I would have to edit it, and well, I like to one take this one. It's only 3 races. This race is, in my opinion, a lot more difficult than the first one. I mean, the first race has a pretty good way of beating it. You just throw it in right at the start of the race, and that's all. So this one is a lot more difficult, in my opinion. But you should gain some places early as well, but it's not as easy to get ahead early. What do you want? That car was a little bit in the way. You kind of have to try to get ahead here as well. And it's really important to poke your nose in, and then the cars usually give way. Another one. There we go. Sometimes you just have to play a little switcheroo with them. Well, that's not good. It's close to being terrible. We still got a pretty good drift in. And now we're working on that pair. It's always good when they are fighting as well. And really don't just listen to the... not listen, but don't just focus on the racing line when it's telling you to brake and how much it's telling you to brake. You need to get a little bit of a feel for it yourself. Well, yeah, we should have been a little bit slower. But I'm trying to get closer to this guy, but we should be able to, especially now through that fast bend. You will probably get a bad line. You'll probably be able to throw it in here. The AI is pretty bad at that corner, so that allowed us to get really close. And now again you see they have, or the racing line showed that yellow marker, and the AI slows down a little bit and you can just go through full throttle. So really those are corners where you can usually at least make some room on them, if not overtake them. And now it's all about defending the position or just increasing the gap, although with the rubber banding AI increasing the gap is pretty tough. The gap won't become too big. So, but a gap like this is usually enough for any minor mistakes. And hey, we have rewind for the bigger mistakes on for a change. I'm very sorry. Oops, that's wall again. But yeah, we have a pretty comfortable lead now, and as long as we don't massively F up, we should be in a good position. And here as well, you don't need to slow down until the entire line is blue, just slow down enough for you to feel comfortable here as well. You don't need to actually brake there. Just send it in. Those are the areas the AI is, like I said, not very good at, so... If you manage to do these things, this race won't be very difficult neither. It's just, I feel like the blueprint for the race is not as simple as the first race. Where it's really just get ahead right up then and there at the start. Or closely after the start. And then you just drive through the technical bends. It's also hard, like the AI can do fairly well through those, but it's hard for the AI to overtake you there in the technical bends. Because it's also pretty close, the roads are pretty close, and it's an area where you can defend pretty well. Here instead, however, if you don't do particularly well, the AI can also overtake you again because the roads are a little bit wider. But that was not too big of an issue now. That finishes race number 2. Was that a tune that I liked? Or was that the design? Because I thought I used the tune for a lot longer, and it usually shows after like 3 or 4 races. I didn't tune it for this race, or for the previous race, so I don't exactly know. Yeah, that's the last one. The last one, you just need to make sure you finish far enough ahead that you win the championship. I think the first 2 are pretty doable wins, and this one is doable as well, but I haven't really focused on this race much. It's about winning the first 2 in my opinion. Kind of like the trial, only that the trial ends if you win the first 2. You should obviously still make sure that you finish well. It goes without a question. Go away. You don't want to let all these cars pass at the start and then have to re-overtake them, because overtaking always requires some effort at least. Kind of on the outside, that sucks to switch through on him. That was a bad move. Switch again. Where we have one of those corners where the AI will slow down and you don't really have to. Oh, that's not a good move. That was a little bit dirty. It wasn't planned, it was just a last second save, and that actually worked pretty well. Now we have to try to get this guy. Second is obviously enough, so I'm not sweating it, but it'll still be good if we get the guy. There's one of these corners where the AI slows down a lot more than you do. And we get the car sideways before the jump, so that we land in the correct position. That is sometimes a good move to make. When you near a jump, you get the car sideways a little bit or turned in the direction that you want to go. And then you get into the jump, and then when you land, you're already pointed in the direction you want to go in. And you don't have to initiate the turning afterwards when maybe you don't really have time for that. So that is a move you can try to incorporate. This should be a pretty good win as well. There you can see, I mean, the racing line has said, hey, you need to brake, but sometimes you can just drift through it and kind of get the car pointed in the correct direction and then just wing it as it goes. But bit of a twisty bit here, where you certainly need to have some car control, and this is where a car like the WRX STI comes into play, because it's very easy to control. Obviously with the all-wheel drive and the off-road setup, and the general easiness of the car. It's a very forgiving car as well. You can push it pretty hard and it's pretty forgiving. Now we just race to the finish line, that's not too big of a problem, and that completes the championship, and we did pretty well, I would assume. I mean, 3 wins is all you can ask for. It's a pretty fast third race. Under 3 minutes. So that was tune and delivery. Okay, whatever. And that gives us the 2019 Vantage, which is a pretty cool car, I would say. Hey, and a level up. Whee! Some more money! Ooh, exactly what we need. Anyway, I hope you can do this as well. I hope you learned maybe a thing or two about the tracks and how to drive them, or maybe you didn't and you just enjoy watching, or maybe you did neither and you find this terrible. I don't know. That would be a shame, but you know. If you do, however, then I'm not entirely sure why you watched the whole video until here, but oh well. So I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you for watching, and until next time, farewell.